I've been in this role for 13 years as the CEO representing cities, towns, and villages all across America. And no matter what, and I was listening to Scott, I can tell you this, I'm still inspired by the work that you do every day and the resilience that you have unflinchingly working no matter what is going on in our nation and in our communities. You're still the ones that are taking responsibility for leading our nation and leading our communities. And in spite of the political environment at the moment, you continue to keep your eye focused on what is important. The word civility and this issue of civility is not a new topic in our democracy. And as a young George Washington wrote a list of 110 rules of civility, and at the top of his list was every action done in company ought to be with some sign of respect to those that are present. The concept of living during uncertain, uncivil, polarizing time was and is a theme then, and it still is a theme now. And I spoke about this during our city summit in Salt Lake City. But I also wanted to make a point today that it is more important that we are seen as local leaders as the one that can continue to lead. And I recognize that your job as local leaders is more complicated today than it was back in the day when George Washington was leading, and clearly when I got elected in 1984. I speak to a lot of mayors and council members and elected officials throughout the country, and they tell me that they are experiencing increased incivility in public meetings, town halls, and even in our personal lives related to our families, seeing our families are being attacked. It's more to me about sometimes what we do as elected officials, and that I travel a lot and I see sometimes things that I honestly don't like. The fighting on the dais, the talking not about the issues, but taking things personal. And it really is increasing throughout America because we're seeing that 70% of local officials are saying that they're experiencing some form of harassment, and 23% said that it's extended to their family members, which they are not elected officials, but it's coming to their homes every day. And that's unacceptable in terms of America and the way in which we should govern, especially on the local level. And this problem that we're seeing really interferes with our ability to get our jobs done, to make sure that we govern and to make sure that the business of governing occurs. And, we all deserve, I'd say, a job and a role that harassment is not a part of the job responsibility. Recently I've been thinking about this a lot more. And what I keep coming back to is that this trusted community of peers, local leader to local leader, that is the most important piece. It really is. And so this year, the National League of Cities, we're leading an effort to focus on the word trust, public trust, and civility. And as the leaders who interact mostly with residents on a daily basis, they see you and they see how you step up. They see how you lead, and they respect the way in which you treat one another on the dais. And your resiliency is so critical. And I know that there are best practices out there, and we're going to provide some of those to you. Technical assistance, best practices, how to convene communities in a thoughtful way, about how you work with your public safety community to leverage their respect that they have in the community so that you can be that most important leader for your local communities. We have to do that, and we have to continue to lead, because I will say this: as local government leaders lead with civility, so does that community, and so does all of America. So what we're going to be doing with our NLC University is making sure that we use tools like the Dignity Index. We're going to make sure that you get the examples from throughout America. We're going to engage not just the local officials, but we're going to start talking to governors, state legislators, and of course, Congress and the White House too, because we know that it has to be a government relationship from all levels. But the most important and the level that we're going to own is our responsibility as local leaders to make sure that we are an example of what civility is and what respect is and how dignity is so important. So we're going to be also partnering with our state leagues like the Iowa League, because this summit that we're a part of today, that Alan and his team is put together, is a way of us all showing up. It means that we were intentional to make sure that the entire Midwest and the nation understands that this is not just a one region issue. This is a national issue. I also think we got to use our collective voices. And what I mean by that is I want us to put together a campaign that models civic discourse, examples of how in America we can build communities of dignity and respect. I also want to encourage us to take a pledge and adopt that pledge at our city council meeting and our commission meetings. And so we can remember, as we start our meeting, we can start with reminding ourselves of our pledge that we committed to how we're going to lead our communities. The National League of Cities will provide you with the resources. We're going to work with you. We're going to be a part of the championship of civility, because there is much more we can learn from one another. And especially when things get difficult through all the uncertainty, I hope you'll remember this strong network of local leaders that you are a part of, along with the Iowa League and the other leagues in America. The most important key here, though, and I want to make sure I share some real substantive thoughts that I've been thinking about our role, and reflecting on the notion that we all entered public sector because we believe we could make a difference and an impact to improve the lives of our neighbors. And we believed that we had the ability to make change. So today, one of the most important things we can change is this growing sense of community we feel that we're losing in our communities. And we got to find a way to set tables, like festivals, like inviting your neighbor over, not to have conversations about politics, but to have conversation about the meals you're having. So first, a couple of things. One, we have to set the tone for public engagement. We got to show the examples. Secondly, we have to create a space for constructive disagreement and learning to listen to each other. And we can use that in a lot of ways through partnering with our chambers, through partnering with our regional groups, our counties. We may not all agree, but I want to see us as partners work together and making sure that we show America how to partner. I'd also think that we can show America, number 3, is governing without inflammatory division. We had the governors of Utah and New Mexico on our stage. They were different parties, but they liked each other and they knew each other. They knew their family members. Now, this is difficult work, especially given the environment that we're in. But let me just say this and be very clear. Civility is how trust is rebuilt, one interaction at a time. And that means throughout your community, throughout your day, throughout your governance practices. And when we can build civility by one act at a time through respect and dignity, I know that all of our residents will feel like the place they live and raise their kids, they can call it home.